All right, let's address the elephant in the room. This is my Sony FX6 rig build. I have been using this exact rig for 2 months now, and if you are a ultra low budget indie filmmaker or documentarian like myself, me personally, I've shot nearly 50 short films, 3 feature films, and if you're like me, then you will definitely appreciate this camera and what it offers. Just within the 2 months that I've owned it, here in 2024, I shot an 80s horror short film. I did a commercial for A-Pass e-bikes. I did a little documentary piece for an artist. Also did 3 days on a music video for that same artist. I did some B-roll pickup shots up in Bakersfield for a feature-length documentary. And we did the promo for Fullerton Fabrication. That was the one where we hooked up with NiSi. They came out and let me showcase and use the brand new Athena-tuned cinema lenses. There was no paid sponsorship or anything like that. It was just an awesome way to showcase those new lenses. Sadly, YouTube buried that one in the algorithm, but I'll link it down below so you can check it out. Now, some of you may be surprised that I have this because not everybody follows me on Instagram, and for the ones that do, that's really why I'm making this video. Because I share all of my behind the scenes in the story section over there on Instagram, and people know what I'm up to almost literally on a daily basis. So I get a lot of questions about this rig specifically, and I'm going to break down every piece of kit on this rig. I did do a review, I guess, of this camera back in September when I first picked it up. Review is a very loose term. It was more of an entertainment piece, but still a review at the same time, more of a conversation. And I've been told it is highly entertaining, so I'll leave a link to that down below as well if you want to check that out. Some of you may be just mind blown right now because you thought I was still shooting on the red Komodo. No, I mentioned in another one of my photography videos a while back that I did end up selling the Komodo way back in March, is because the last time that camera was requested on a paid job was 2022. So during 2022 all the way through 2024, I also owned the Sony a7S III and the FX30. Those cameras were working the majority of the time. Believe it or not, some projects were even requesting those cameras over the red Komodo, so it's pretty crazy. And certainly all the jobs that I was the gaffer on, they were also using Sony FX6 cameras. Then this past summer, I was the DP of the Harper music video. We shot that on 2 FX6s and 1 FX9, and that's when I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna seal the deal and get the FX6. I personally don't think Sony is gonna put out the Mark II version, at least until late next year, so I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna tell you why right now, because those projects that I mentioned earlier that I shot within the 2 months that I've been using this exact rig, all of those jobs had one huge thing in common. They were ultra low budge. For half of them, I was literally all by myself. That's how crazy it is out here right now. Guys, LA and Hollywood has not recovered since the pandemic. And then on the tails of the pandemic was the strike. So this town is hurting so bad. And so, yeah, that's why I've been having to do one-man band stuff. And this camera has 3 things that let me ease the pain when operating by myself, completely working by myself, and going a million miles a second as you do when you are very limited on resources and time and money. And that is audio, exposure, and focus. I'm gonna start off by talking about the media. I've been using these new media cards. They're made by this weird little company called Chip Fancier. I had never heard of this company before. They did send me this card, but I'm not doing a whole video dedicated to media. I don't care that much. But these cards are insane, I will say that. They are VPG 400 rated. They are IP68 weatherproof. They are very fast. But here's the craziest part about these cards. Lifetime warranty. So look at the speed reads on this with the Blackmagic Design Drive speed test. So look at these numbers, 8K, 24 frames per second. But if you look down at the bottom, these CFexpress cards are good all the way up to 12K DCI, 24 frames per second for Blackmagic RAW. In the world of ProRes 422 HQ, you tap out at 8K DCI, 24 frames per second. However, they won't work for 8K 60 frames per second. So even though it says 4320, that's actually 8K, guys. So that's 8K 60, it's not gonna work. But funny enough, 8K DCI 24, it does work. And then in the world of H.265, you're good all the way up to 8K DCI 60 frames per second, as well as normal 8K at 60 frames per second. So if you look over here at the H.265, there you know what I mean, why 4320 is 8K, because it is. There it shows you 4320 8K, 750 megabytes per second for write, 669 megabytes for read. But look at these 4K specs, man. This is 2670 megabytes for write, 2345 megabytes for read. I mean, these things are super fast. Truly VPG 400 rated. I shot an hour-long interview with them, no problem. 4K 120, no problem. Absolutely love it. 256 gigabytes for $120. They also have 500 gigs and 1 terabyte. And keep in mind, those speeds are even faster with the CFB Express card. So they also make CFB as well as V90 SD cards. So yeah, I've been using these. They're called Chip Fancier. I keep 2 of them in here. 256 gigabytes in each slot. 500 gigabytes total is good for me, but also it's because of the very awesome small file sizes that the Sony FX6 offers, but you're still able to tap into the RAW tab and change the white balance, the ISO, the highlight roll off, the shadow detail. You're able to adjust that all at a numerical level. I don't know how Sony is doing that. It's not true RAW, but still having the capabilities of RAW through the metadata is just amazing. I absolutely love it, and the files are so small. I guess we should talk about the audio. So let me swing this around here. So I don't have any cables plugged in right now with this. I'm gonna put this brow down before I cut my head, which a lot of you would enjoy to watch. This is a miniature XLR cable from Condor Blue. Okay, I love keeping this as tiny as possible. The reason why I don't have any cables is because I didn't want to deal with it. I hate cables, number one, and I just wanted to avoid that for today's demonstration purposes, right? So you just have to imagine the cables on this. Plus, I am not a first AC. I will never be good at organizing cables properly. Cable management is my worst enemy. So the audio, you'll notice this looks a little different up here. I did actually take off the shock mount that comes stock with the FX6. You'll read horror stories all over online, Reddit, Facebook groups, where people get this shock mount broken off. And when it gets broken off, it's gonna take a lot of the XLR handle with it. So I got this little setup that I saw someone share on a YouTube short, have no idea who he was, but I basically copied him, no shame there, and it's pretty badass. So what I have here is basically an array shock mount, okay, with the Rye code in there. By the way, the absorption of the stock FX6 shock mount is horrendous. You can hear every little movement, so this you don't hear anything. I mean, this is made for a boom pole actually. And then I have this little, I don't know if this is the same one the guy was using, but it essentially is something like this. This turns the hot shoe on top into 3 cold shoes and also 2 other mounting points. These are quarter 20s with little airy locking holes in them. Badass for sure. So now I have multiple mounting points up here. I've turned 1 mounting point into 5 different mounting points. And what I do is what you just saw, the microphone sits there essentially where the actual mic would be, because I like that. I like the way it's designed. I want to stay as streamlined as possible. And I've seen people, you know, the guy that did the video on this, he had it mounted way down here, something weird. You know, no, I want to keep it where it would make more sense to have the microphone. So it's essentially where it was. I do use my old throwback, the MKH416. I'm gonna tell you right now, when I was working on the 80s horror short film, was not able to bring anyone from my normal crew because the budget just wasn't there. And the crew actually was a bunch of high school interns. So I had the foresight to think ahead because I was worried about who was operating the boom mic, knowing it would be a high schooler that probably didn't have a lot of real world experience operating a boom mic. And because I have the past 7 years experience working in the narrative world, I know that from the audio guys that I work with, there's a term called handsy. So what that means is someone that doesn't have a lot of experience or a lot of hours working a boom mic and they're moving their hands around, you can hear it every time they make a little movement. So I kind of thought that was gonna happen. So I threw on the Sennheiser MKH, and what's amazing about the FX6 is I just put this on auto, and believe it or not, guys, I was able to salvage the entire final scene of the movie because somehow I got roped into editing that thing as well. I don't normally edit the stuff I shoot, I just hand it over. That's why you don't really see a lot of the stuff that I shoot here, because that's how it works in the real world, guys. You shoot something and then you hand it over to the producer or client that hired you to shoot it. Anything that I share here on the channel is either something that I was kind of a co-producer on through my production company, DOGTIMES Productions LLC, or something that it was a true passion project all through myself or the mind of my wife, something like that. That's why a lot of the stuff that I've done is really only available on my website at justinfilm.com. The audio completely saved us. The auto is just amazing. You know, I had it set kind of low for the auto internally, and yeah, we saved the entire final scene of that short film because it was a very tight space and I was in very close. Either way, it saved us. That's awesome. I would have never been able to do that on the Komodo. We all know the reasons why. So moving on with the top handle here, if I move some stuff around, this is my nub for the EasyRig Quick Release. I saw recently where someone is still asking about the strength of the top handle because they're still using the old school, like, Kong Frong clamp with their Easy Rig. Guys, that is so 2018. It's just awesome. If you follow me on Instagram or here on the channel, you know that about 90% of the time I am using the Easy Rig. Some people think like, oh, look how weak he is, you know, he has to use the Easy Rig, but that's not it. Guys, the whole reason to use the Easy Rig is because it's taking away the micro jitters, okay? That's why I use it. And plus, if you're shooting for 8 hours a day like I am, yeah, you're gonna get fatigued no matter how strong you are. So you should think about using the Easy Rig and get off the Kong Frongs, you know, the huge rings. It's horrendous looking in my opinion. This is really nice, streamlined, pops on and off. It's just amazing. I did keep the stock FX6 top handle because I just wanna keep things kind of the way they are. They're there for a reason. You'll see on the back here, maybe you can see that I have that right there. That is my small rig AirTag thing, okay? So I just have that bolted on the back there. You will notice it is a little cluttered over here because I do have both monitors. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't, but I just wanted to do it today because the last time I used this camera, I was using both, okay, for the PBS documentary. So the reason why I like to do that, you'll notice I have the Small HD Indy 5. It is on the Bright Tangerine Titan arm, and I love that. You know, people comment all the time, they're like, dude, that thing is so big and isn't it heavy? But I don't care. I don't think it's that heavy. I mean, you can literally use it as a top handle if you wanted. I used to do that with the Komodo all the time, actually. It's so strong. They are coming out with the Mark II version, so that'll be interesting to see, but I love it. I love it because not only is it not going anywhere, but I can still like adjust it. You can see how quickly I can adjust it, but it's not going anywhere, right? Now my actual tripod might be a little loose right now. No, your monitor is not going anywhere, but you are still able to tilt it like this. I just love that. I absolutely love that. The reason why I use both is because I like to have a clean image on the monitor itself, right? So up here on the Small HD, usually just the LUT, nothing else on the screen, and then I can slide quickly one over, have my EL zone, right? Down here on the actual Sony LCD screen, that's where I can monitor the log image all the time. I have all the information up there, the cluttered screen, you know, but I like that to watch certain times, watch certain elements, you know, have the little waveform down there. This is the screen I keep cluttered, the little baby Sony one, right? Up here, just crystal clear and the LUT, nothing else. And that way I can just monitor both, right? So when I'm on the Easy Rig, it's pretty simple, right? It's just like this, and it's holding like this, and now I'm just looking like this between each one, right? I got the big monitor there, I got this one right here, and I'm just going back and forth here, and I don't have to worry about hitting a button down here, letting go of the support of my camera, because even though you're on the Easy Rig, you know, as soon as you let go, you know, it gets a little weird. That's why I just tend to use both. You'll notice I have the quick release system there, and that's the Sockler Flowtech. Moving on, we'll get out of screens and monitors now. And yeah, I just love the Sony screen. I really do. I'm almost always using the Small HD. I was gonna say I don't use it, but for the past 2 months, it's been on the camera. Unless it's like just something for me, for YouTube or something, then I don't even bother with the Small HD. If the stakes aren't high, right, I'll just leave the Small HD off. The base plate I have is the same base plate I've had for 5 years, guys. It's the 8-Sin. I use it on the Komodo, I use it on the A7S III, I use it on the FX30. I even had it on the Pocket 4K at one point in the beginning. It's awesome. It's just a universal base plate. With the FX6, I did have to ditch the riser. So there used to be a riser on there, but you got to ditch that because the FX6 has got so much space here between the bottom of the mount. You got to just take the riser plate off of the base plate itself, and then it sits flat there. And this misfit atom is actually on the rails, because I usually use a black donut with it, but I also have the normal size misfit, and I really only use that if I have to use a circular polarizer. Other than that, I really just use the misfit atom. Certainly now that I have the electronic variable ND in here, I mean, that's a game changer. The amazing thing about it is you can go into the menus and you can map it, and you can tell it what areas of the screen that you want to kind of under or over expose, and you're basically mapping the meter of the camera and telling the electronic variable ND where you want to place certain parts of the image. It's a game changer, man. And honestly, I use it, I rely on it all the time in shooting outdoors, especially for the low budget stuff that I do. I use it a lot on the music video. But yeah, the electronic variable ND, amazing, amazing. If I don't trust it all the time, if I have multiple different kinds of skin tones in the shot, well then I'll just control it myself with the wheel. And a lot of people will be like, well, you could do that with the Mofage, God forbid, or you know, the Mica one or Breakthrough, or whatever one you want to use that sits in between the mount and the camera. The problem is, I mean, I already, you know, did a Mofage honest review, and we know how horrible that is. And in my opinion, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. You know, even the company themselves tried to fight me on that, tried to give me pushback on that. They have a hard time accepting reality, right? You guys know I live in the reality of the situation. I don't like to lie to myself. I own who I am. I own what's going on. I pride myself on that, right? It's part of my continual sobriety. I don't ever talk about this, guys, but I've been sober for 11 years, and a lot of how I'm able to do that is because I keep it real. I keep it real with myself, and therefore I keep it real with everyone else around me. A lot of people just hear what they want to hear, they live in denial, and that's fine. That's their prerogative, that's how they want to live. Just gonna leave that there. Here we are. I do have the NiSi E-mount to PL mount adapter, and we have this, the 40mm. 40mm is the way to go. I mean, all of 1917 was shot on a 40mm. I have the 40mm Leica Summicron lens that lives on my M10. I love 40mm. It's one of my favorite focal lengths. Maybe 1917 is what sold me on the 40mm. I honestly can't remember, but I'm so glad that NiSi has it now. And I mean, look, they shot all of 1917 on a 40mm. That should be testament to all of us. You could shoot anything on just that one lens. I think if you only had one lens, the 40mm is the way to go. I already talked about the matte box. The beauty of that now is being able to only use the misfit atom, because now I only have to worry about putting diffusion in front of the lens. Don't have to worry about stacking ND or none of that crap. Because the biggest downside with any time that you put filters or glass in front of your lens, you're always going to deal with ghosting, reflections, all of that crap. Okay, then you'll notice that we have the grips, right? So I have a normal Camvate leather grip on this side. Another reason why I love the 8-in base plate, it has the rosette grips built in, and this is the tilted one. So if I'm on a job and I'm using cine lenses, now I can pull my own focus, you know, because the budget's so low, we can't get a first AC or whatever. Obviously I don't have the motor on there, but I would mount the motor from the top. Let me swing this out of the way so you can see what's going on up top here real quick. Hopefully you can see this. And see that? The Titan arm's so good, it just stays wherever you put it. So right here, you'll notice that's a top rail. So I did go with the Tilta cheese plate, top plate, and that's mainly because it comes with 2 of these 15mm rod clamps, because I do like to mount my focus motors from the top and hang them down. I just found it, with the Tilta motors, they're highly temperamental, and it just keeps them from bucking off and doing weird stuff, so I always mount them from the top. So that's why I went with the Tilta cheese plate. Plus, it was really the only one that it come with 15mm clamps, but also kind of let me still use the stock top handle. Now let's really get into it. On this side, back here, it's the same thing that I used in my Komodo days, guys. It is the wooden camera battery slide. I always talk about this, man. You know, people talk about blowing their monitors, even on the FX6. You know, this is a thing, and I keep saying it over and over. The beauty of the battery slide is it allows you to keep internal battery in your camera at all times. You can look in there, I still have one. So what that means is if you have a first AC and or really if you have a second AC and they're not doing their job very well and they forgot to check the battery, when the V-mount dies, the camera will just click over into using the internal battery, and it has saved us multiple times on set. Even back to my Komodo days, I was shooting way more narrative stuff in those days, and all the time the V-mount would die, and we would be in the middle of a take, but it wouldn't matter. You know, the monitors die, Video Village dies, but we still got the shot. Why? Because the battery slide allows me to keep a internal battery in the camera. But the biggest reason why I love the battery slide is because it has built-in fuse protection, right? Here's the biggest problem, guys. Stop plugging your D-tap directly into the batteries. One of the #1 root problems if you're having problems blowing stuff, you're plugging directly into the battery itself. Stop doing that. These things are not protected. The wooden camera battery slide is protected. It has a fuse protector in there. It does work. It will trip. It has tripped even on this camera. All you got to do is see what's going on, reset it, and get back on your day. There is only 3 ports on here. There is also a 2-pin LEMO somewhere on here. But even if you need to have more than 3 ports, you can just get one of these, okay? And this also has built-in fuse, or at least it says it does. Either way, you're still gonna go into it. So this will turn a 1 into 4. You do gotta be careful with these though, because again, you don't wanna overpower it, but you know, the fuse is gonna trip. It'll let you know if you're doing that. In fact, I do think that is how that happened with this. Wow, yeah, I was talking really fast. I think we got through all of it. These rails come stock with the 8-in base plate. They're pretty badass. They look like a gun, which I'm a fan of. And on the back here, this little small rig shoulder mount. I've had this since my Pocket 4K days. It's just a nice way, you know, if you gotta do shoulder mount, you know, now it really makes sense with the FX6. You know, it's just beautiful. I can mount this small, you know, you see me how I can still move the bright tangerine around, but it's not actually, you know, you can see how nice and stiff it is. That's why I love the Titan arm. You know, I mean, obviously right now I don't have these really set up, but yeah, that's the rig. I think I answered everything there. I mean, that's the whole rig right there. It's pretty simple, you know, pretty simple. Filtration, you know, I pick filtration based upon the project. Always, 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 so that changes all the time. And yeah, that's what it is, guys. The Sony FX6 rig. I hate to call it a dream camera. To be honest with you guys, this was a camera I was fighting against for a long time. I'm not a fan of ENG style cameras, I'm just not. But, you know, the proof was in the pudding, man. I mean, time after so many sets, FX6, 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 even on the job boards requesting FX6, we want someone with the FX6. And then finally, you know, after we did the Harper music video this past summer, shot that on 2 FX6s and 1 FX9, Steadicam had the FX9. And I mean, I told all the guys there, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get one. That was it. I hope this video was helpful for all of my Sony FX6 shooters out there. And for our trolls, here's what I say. I'm no dummy. I keep your comments up because it's all engagement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Doesn't matter who we are. What matters is our plan. No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
I am cinema.